So this is for all the people who thinking about opening up their own clothing stores. I had randomly people ask me today about they had ideas about opening up their own clothing stores, and so I decided to come do a video on it just to make sure that anyone who wants to open their own clothing store, they can have the right idea about how they want to go about it. First and foremost, you want to always essentially know what type of clothing store you want to open up and what market are you trying to um, what market you trying to actually subscribe to essentially. Because you have babies clothes and you have like toddlers clothes, or you have adults, essentially babies, teens, adults, or babies, kids, teens, adults, and you also have like women's adults, and then all girls, teen, baby clothes, or something like that. Then you want to have you have different genres such as all guys and babies clothes, um, all guys and babies clothes. It kind of just all depends about what do you want your store to be named, or what I'm saying. What do you want the store to be known for? Another big question is essentially, where do you want to go with it? As far and when I say that, what I mean is essentially, do you want your store to be something unique and essentially always set apart, or you want your store to be something that you could possibly turn into a franchise one day, something that's bigger? And so, with that being said, what you essentially, sorry about that. I gotta make sure my seat's right here. Um, so you have to always know what you want to do because it helps you. I'm one of those conscious type of people where if you ever heard of consciousness creates matter. So when it comes to visualizing on what you want in the future, I believe that possibly the universe kind of works it out for you, or God or whoever else you feel comfortable with believing works it out for you if you just essentially ask for it and visualize what it is that you actually want to do. Okay, with that being said, let's go back for a second to what type of store you want to have. What type of clothing do you want to have in your store? Because it makes a big difference when you're talking about going to different markets that they have in Dallas, Atlanta, Washington State, uh, different places. Houston has one. They have just different markets depending on more importantly, they have different markets depending on whatever it is that you're trying to put in your store. So, for instance, if you're thinking about the layout of your store, you already got the layout in your head, or you already got a place or a building that you essentially want to put a clothing store, want to set up a clothing store, then you might have, the left, right corner in the front and left, right corner in the back. Well, essentially, you want to have maybe baby clothes at the front left. Well, if you want to have baby clothes at the front left, then you need to make sure to go to a market that markets baby clothes. Now, this is the tough part. When you first start off opening up your own store, you're not going to be able to essentially afford all those big name brands. Uh, with anything Nautica or you know Gucci or any Nike, even probably Nike, essentially. So you got to kind of have essentially an eye for whatever you think the market is going to react to, or whatever you think the public's going to react to. Excuse my different terminologies, but whatever you think the public's going to react to most, that is what your eye has to be, because you have to walk through a market area where you're talking about baby clothes, you're talking about uh, middle-aged women's fashion, spring fashion. You have to walk through and you got to be like, oh my goodness, I like that. I think that a lot of other people would like that outfit or something like that. And so when you do that, you of course in this system, everyone pretty much it's pretty much like a liquidation sale type of thing, how they have it set up, and then you just go through and everyone has all their clothing and their different styles on display, and you just simply pick up a piece of paper and you take that piece of paper and you take it with you, and if you and essentially you say you pick up 12 different pieces of paper, well, you talk to all 12 of them and only 6 of them can actually come through with the amount of orders that you need to fill up a certain a certain a section of your store, because sometimes a lot of people might be small family or at home businesses, so they don't have the capabilities to uh, coming up with as many clothes as you may particularly need for your store or for a section of your store. So with that being said, you have to like I said, you might go home with 12 pieces of paper and only 6 of them can accommodate how much the orders that you're actually going to need on a regular basis. And this is only in the situation that the market or the public actually takes a liking to the style. And because if they do that, they're going to buy it up. You'll know that just by the numbers. And once they buy it up, you go get more. And essentially, that is how you grow your actual your clothing store, because after you pick enough styles that the public likes and you can fill your store in, even if you start off small at first, you pick enough styles that people like and essentially they buy, then that means you bring in more money. You bring in more money, you can save more money, and you can go opt for a bigger building or a bigger place to set up another store. Once you set up another store, then you can focus on getting something bigger and filling up with even more clothes that people will like. And if you get even more clothes people like that, just, what I'm saying, on and on process like that, and then eventually you got enough money or enough stores where you can start buying big name stuff, and people can only come to your stores uh, for general things. If your aim is to try to create a chain, then they can come in there for general things, and you can just have it throughout. You can have it throughout your different chains. Or if you want to be uniquely known for a particular thing or a particular style of clothing, so you really want to make up your mind when it comes to like just essentially what you want to do, man, because there's so many options, and more especially out of those options, you got to be able to pick out in these different markets which option essentially is going to sell. What is and you honestly you don't know until you put it on the shelves and people buy it or they don't buy it. If they don't buy it, that means people wasn't reacting well to it. Sometimes you may have to make a call whether you want to try for one more month or I think how it goes is on 3-month intervals. So you may before you just go to another market. Well, some markets are all year round. Sometimes I heard like in I think it's Dallas where they have certain markets that are like essentially every week. So you can go to a market as often as you need to essentially. But sometimes they got traveling markets where they just come around to different little places and essentially kind of like state fairs set up. They just go to different states and they set up their stuff and they make their money. And they have traveling markets that do the same thing as far as you getting buying clothes from them for the market or ordering clothes from them to see how the market responds to it. And then again, like I said, that you have to make sure that you have a good location. I'm sorry I didn't mention that earlier. You want to make sure you have a good location, but that's kind of self-explanatory. I guess not so much. So I guess we should go over it to a small degree. Make sure you have a good location because, of course, if you don't have a good location, then that means people won't be visiting your store. You won't have enough traffic coming through. You know what I'm saying? That's why shopping centers are always good places to set up things like clothing stores because you got traffic coming through. People might be eating somewhere or they may be watching a movie somewhere else. And if this is all in the same shopping center, then, of course, to stop by your clothing store would be even better for your business to grow. Um, with that being said, once you find a place that you like and you scout it for 6 to 8 months, you make sure that's a place you like and you decide you want to move on this area, you want to buy this place or lease out this building, then that's when you want, like I said, it goes back to making sure you know exactly when you could, because sometimes if most local malls, you got places, stores and malls, of course, that has a lot of traffic, and that's why people go for those kind of places. But you got places in the mall where people may have all baby clothes, and sometimes people may have all kids, toddlers, or the babies might only go up to toddlers, and then you have stores they go from kids to teens, and that's it. Another place they may have go from young adults or teens, essentially, all the way to adults, and so that's the type of standard you want to have for your store. And once you break it down to just those three categories, it's kind of easy when you're doing it. It's a little less difficult when you're talking about baby clothes. But when you're talking about kids' clothes, you got a whole lot of different styles that you can go with. And also with that, more especially when you're talking about adults, you got even more different styles because you have the men adults and you have the women adults. And of course, everyone knows with women you can have even more of different types of styles to choose from. Um, so you have to make sure to know what type of style you want to be known for, and more especially, you have to have an eye for style. Just you as the operating CEO of your store, you have to have an eye for style because what you're looking for is what will sell. And so, if you're looking for what will sell, that means at all times you have to be uh, thinking about what the public will possibly want to buy. So you have to always keep that in mind because that's your job. You know what I'm saying? As a store owner, you have to a clothing store owner, you have to make sure that whatever you decide that catches your eye. Essentially, you have to know that you want, or essentially that's how I would use that as a good gauge. If it catches your eye, it'll catch someone else's eye. Then again, you got to make sure that you got a pretty good style yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so. And I just and so I'm just a normal guy at the end of the day. I just read and I know that side of the business from reading, and I go to school myself in graduate school. And on top of that, I've talked to different store owners because I'm a bit of a fast talker myself, so I can sell things. And I've talked to people just about, and people don't realize that if you just ask a question, most of the time people will just tell you. You just gotta take the initiative to ask a question. And so I just ask a lot of questions and get a lot of different information from store owners or whatever, from different clothing styles, and then they just tell me. And so that's how I know. And like I said, someone else asked me about it today. I decided to tell her about it. And so I was like, hey, I should make a blog on this because I need to blog today. And so, if you want to open up your own clothing store, that's essentially how you can go about it. And those are the type of things you want to think about, and that's what you want to keep in mind when opening up your own clothing store. And that's pretty much it. Scotty B, Words Forever Last, out.